Unfortunately, recently in Italy, we had a significant terrorist event.
Okay, Genk. Hi, everybody. I'm going to speak softly and carry a big dick because my girlfriend's sleeping in the other room. Okay, where do we start? A significant terrorist event? No, it was not a significant terrorist event. Nobody's dead. And it's also kind of ridiculous that you call this terrorism. And I will explain that to you later. I mean, it's not terrorism. But here's an even more prevalent point. What the hell gives you the balls, the sweaty brown balls, to have the nerve to talk about terrorism and report on this story as if you cover events of terror? Now, I believe it was, December? This past December, where a Muslim drove through a crowd in Melbourne? He didn't cover that. He hasn't covered hundreds of events of Muslim terror where not just people got shot and didn't die. No, people are dead. Hundreds of people dead. He doesn't cover any of it because he can't wedge it into his agenda. Just like he can't button that top button on that shirt without cutting the blood flow to his fat brain.
Talking Points memo explains Luca Trainee, 28 years old, remained jailed as police investigated him on multiple counts of attempted murder with the aggravating circumstance of racial hatred for the Saturday attacks in the Italian city of Macerata.
Hey, Macerata. So Macerata is on the east coast of Italy, right across the bay. Or I don't know, it's water. I'm not sure what it is. From Split, Croatia, which is where I used to live. Now, they're talking about attempted murder with the aggravating circumstance of racial hatred. How is that terrorism? How? It's not terrorism. He's taken an attempted murder with potential racial hatred mixed in, which could be a hate crime or whatever the Italian version of that is, and he's trying to say it's terror. Now, let me explain to you why. It's not arbitrary. He's not doing that for no reason. He's doing that because he's highlighting an event where you have a white guy from Italy shooting at black people because he's a racist, because fuck whites, whites are racist, right? And he's going to call that terror because he's trying to say it's not always Muslims. In fact, his choice to cover this event and not the countless Muslim acts of actual terror tells you everything you need to know. Oh, he will mention Muslims. See, right now, Muslims are not being mentioned, but the silence on that is deafening. The whole reason we're doing a story, this bullshit story about a neo-Nazi in Italy shooting somebody, is because he wants to defend Muslims. Think of that. Is that amazing? The man is unbelievably transparent. And the title of this video, it's Nazi Drive-By Shooter Guns Down African Migrants. Okay, first of all, he's not a Nazi. You might go neo-Nazi. You might say he's a fascist. He's definitely, not a guy you want to hang around with. But there's a little bit of a backstory. In fact, the story you're watching right now, we're kind of jumping in halfway into it. It's almost like you started the story about the Japanese and the Americans in World War II at Hiroshima. And you go, wow, why did they bomb this city? That's fucked up. What assholes those Americans are. Well, there was a little bit of a backstory to it. Pearl Harbor, that whole thing. Tora, Tora, Tora. Isn't that what they said? I know that's not Jewish. I think it's Japanese for dive, dive, dive. Don't quote me on it.
Oh my God, man, ISIS sent this guy, huh? Hey, look, we got to figure out what the hell's going on here. So we got to block all these.
Okay, so first he's done his little juke move. Hey, ISIS sent this guy. Muslims get a mention. But it's a misdirect. You see, it wasn't ISIS. It's a white guy. Of course, he's not going to show the white guy's face because they have a policy at the Young Turks where they don't want to celebrate or glorify the shooters. So his face will not be shown.
Oh, he's not Muslim. Huh, that's interesting. Oh, he targeted immigrants because he's a right-winger. Huh.
Great, gang. Do you want a medal? You're such a fucking bombastic pig. Yes, you found a story in the world that wasn't a Muslim killing people. Great, Jenk. You've defeated math. Math has succumbed to you. Just like the elastic band on your underwear succumbed to your muffin top. Okay, it's been defeated. You're right, gang. What were we thinking? We thought ISIS was a problem. We thought Muslim terror was a problem. But look, terrorism in Italy. I mean, nobody there is calling it terrorism, but you are. And I guess, shit, gang, we've got to rethink our position on Muslim terror. This is a knockdown argument.
No wonder I haven't seen a tweet from Donald Trump about this.
Yeah, Donald Trump, it's his obligation to tweet about random events happening around the world in which nobody dies. It's Fucking amazing. But you know what else I love about it? What does Trump have to do with the story? Nothing whatsoever. This is a guy pretending to be a news guy with his dorky ass blazer on, cherry picking a story out of Italy, spinning the fuck out of it, smothering it with his agenda in an effort to defend Muslims and make us think that Muslim terror is somehow not a thing because a guy in Italy shot somebody. And during that process, what does Trump have to do with this? Why are you mentioning that man? Oh, because it's raw meat for his fan base. That's why. Just slip in a fuck Trump.
Let's give you more. Italian authorities said they seized Adolf Hitler's Mein Kampf and other publications linked to Nazism.
Oh, this is beautiful, right? Okay, Adolf Hitler's Mein Kampf, right? I don't know about you guys. I have paperback, hardcover, and the collector's edition. Box set DVD, complete with behind-the-scenes bloopers. It's fucking amazing. Hitler was way into giving his dogs Dutch ovens. It was crazy. They had footage of it all. But you want to talk Mein Kampf? You know where Mein Kampf is a bestseller? The nation of Turkey would be the answer. The nation of Turkey. Oh, also Bangladesh, if you're keeping score. You know who exists in Turkey and Bangladesh? Muslims. Muslims. You know who hates the Jews? You know why the Nazis were bad guys? Ooh, super bad. Because they did bad things to Jews. You know who else does bad things to Jews and wants to do bad things to Jews? The Muslims. And do you know who worked alongside the Nazis? The Muslims.
Publications linked to Nazism and a flag with a Celtic cross.
Celtic cross, that's the name of Conor McGregor's left hand. The Celtic cross, beautiful in motion.
A symbol commonly used by white supremacists from Trainee's home on Sunday. So who did he target? The 5 men and 1 woman wounded in a 2-hour drive-by shooting spree are from
Nigeria? Oh, Nigeria. Fuck, that's embarrassing. I'm just kidding. I'm a good actor though, huh?
Nigeria, Ghana, Gambia, and Mali, according to RAI state television. I guess we got to stop all immigration from Italy until we figure out what the hell's going on.
Yeah, exactly, Jenk. One guy shot some people, attempted murder, apparently for no reason. Get your spin off right now before you tell us why he did that. Anybody want to take a guess at home? Why do you think this guy shot those people? Random? Hate crime? Terror? Is he part of a terrorist group? Tricky, right? Very interesting. Think about that for a while. I'll tell you about it at the end.
I mean, we got a responsibility to protect Americans. And if it turns out they've got these kind of white supremacist terrorists in Italy, a place known for fascism before.
How is he a white supremacist? Where was that evidence? Owning Mein Kampf makes you a white supremacist? What is the connection there? Isn't it weird how shit slips like that? So if you want to call him a neo-Nazi, a fan of Adolf Hitler, I've said this before, Adolf Hitler and the Nazis were not white supremacists. How many whites did the Nazis have to kill before that is made clear to you? I think the Nazis had something to do with being German. Aryan blood, Germanic Aryan blood. They were kind of particular. It wasn't a whites. Whites, you're welcome. Newsflash, the Allied forces were all white and they were the mortal enemies of the Nazis. Hello? Oh, also, were the Nazis allied to the Japs? The goddamn Japs. What kind of white supremacy is this? Fucking retarded.
We got to make sure we're safe. Got to figure out what the hell's going on. I'm just applying Donald Trump standards.
Okay, so in other words, now it's been revealed that this make-believe bullshit that you do, where you cherry pick stories and then just barf up your fucking hacky bullshit about it, it's obvious that you don't care about the story. It's obvious that you're using the story to get to the shit you want to say, which is boo Trump. I mean, if you want to say boo Trump, just do a video saying boo Trump. Oh, right, you do. You do thousands. I mean, talk about beating a dead horse. But what else? What else is the point of this video? Oh, I think it's something about white people. Yeah, white supremacy. I mean, there's no evidence of that, but just, yeah, fuck whites. Compare white supremacy to Muslims, and let's not have whites come into the country now. That's not random either. He did that very specifically. Your hatred towards white people is rather obvious. The whole point of the video is for him to promote Muslims, to shill for the Muslims, to say, look, Muslim terror, don't worry about it. Why? Well, because there was a shooting in Italy. That's why.
Right? If you're unsure, you never know. Some members of a group do terrorism. Well, you got to block everybody from the group.
Yeah, not all. Once again, a not all situation. And what is at the end of a not all? Is it a discussion of how many it is? Or is it just it's not all, period, mic drop? Hey, Genk, you want to crunch some numbers? Number of acts of terror perpetrated by Italian immigrants versus Muslim immigrants? Just in America. Or how about this for fun? Acts of Italian terror around the world over the past 100 years versus Muslim terror. How do you think those numbers are going to... Well, it's not going to be zero, and it's not going to be all. Not all acts of terror are from Muslims or Italians, and not zero are from Muslims and Italians. But there is a number, and the numbers between those two groups are not even close, Cenk. Not even close.
The Italians, I'm done with them. Sorry, John Iadarola. We might, maybe, I don't know how John Iadarola, one of our hosts, got here. Might have been chain migration. We got to look into it. We got to look into it. Maybe end it and send him back. The suspect was an unsuccessful candidate last year in local election for the anti-migrant Northern League political party. Italy's ANSA news agency quoted acquaintances saying he previously had ties with the neo-fascist Forza Nuova and Casa Pound parties.
Did you say Casa Pound party? That sounds rapey. That's like a theme night at a frat party. Where are you going? I'm going over to Casa Pound. We're partying. Mi casa is su casa, man. When the casa be a rockin', don't come a knockin'.
Some stuff he put on his forehead. Let's take a look at his picture.
Wait, what? Let's take a look at his picture. Oh, he has this, Jesus. What is that, a half swastika? Finish the deal, my man, finish it off. Okay, so you just once again violated your own stupid ass policy where you don't show the shooter, but you showed the shooter, didn't you? You had to show him. Shaved head, tatted face, evil white man.
Might give you a sense of it as well. That's a swastika.
I'm not really sure that is a swastika, but what is that? How is that a swastika?
Not really subtle. Hey, you know what? Maybe, no, it's not fair to call it a Italian ban. Maybe we should just make it a right-wing ban from all the different countries.
Okay, so, sorry, gang, sorry to interrupt your total retardation and utter lack of coherent thought. You're trying to equate the religion of Islam, the most bloodthirsty, savage, violent, psychotic and insane, imperialistic set of ideas ever to appear in human history. You're comparing that to being an Italian or being a right-winger. Neither of those things have doctrines. Neither of those things command you to kill. There is no group called right-wingers. That's a fabricated group you have made and present to us as a boogeyman. Here's Genk's philosophy. He knows that Muslims kill and commit acts of terror way more than anybody else. He knows that they're a problem everywhere they go in the world, violently speaking. Oh, and culturally speaking, and in terms of rape, and in terms of human rights violations. Oh, all of it, all of it. So what he does is, he thinks, look, I can't compete. I need another group to take the attention off Muslims. So I wish the IRA was around. I wish the Irish Republican Army were killing just all over the world all the time. Turns out 99.7% of the deaths caused by terrorism come from Muslims. So there really isn't another group. But you could gerrymander it. You could say in America, if you start from this year to that year, but even then Muslims kill more than everybody else per capita. But what if you could lump everybody who wasn't a Muslim into the same group? So, Timothy McVeigh, for example, who was he? Well, I don't know. He was a fucked up guy. He worked with one other dude to build a bomb, blew up Oklahoma City. Okay. Well, what was his group? It was a group of like two people. They had a website. It was the most rinky-dink thing of all time. Okay, it was a two-man group, but yeah, that's not really a threat. That's not a global threat. That's not a repeatable threat. Once Timothy McVeigh is dealt with, that's the end of that threat. But what if I called him a right-winger and then just lumped him in with anybody else who I determine to be an extremist? I'll just call them right-wingers. It's a non-existent group. It's only a group when Genk is trying to fudge numbers and distract you from the actual group, which is Islam and the Muslims who support jihad or actual terrorist organizations like ISIS, like Boko Haram. Those are real things. Right-wingers is not a real thing. There is no organized terrorist group called right-wingers. Therefore, your comparison to them is absurd.
Until we figure out what the hell is going on, right? Because to be fair to Italy, and we don't want to discriminate against Italy, it might be a lot of countries we have to ban because of right-wingers that come from those countries that commit horrible acts of terrorism.
And it wasn't an act of terrorism, you fat monstrosity.
Weird though that there hasn't been nonstop press about this issue. Because I know that if there's an act of terrorism, especially if it's politically motivated, driven against certain groups.
It wasn't politically motivated. And are you going to tell us why he did it? Still waiting on that, Gank. It's not an act of terror.
Our press goes nuts over it, and Donald Trump goes nuts over it, and the Republicans go nuts over it.
Oh, right. Oh my God. I'm sorry. I just had a fucking attack. Like, my brain hurts. Okay, so now this is his spiel about, oh, the mainstream media, they're fucking dirty, they're in on this. They saw this story. They saw the story of that shooting where nobody died in Italy, and they didn't run it 24/7. Because they're in on it, because they're white supremacists, and because they're fucking Islamophobic. And if it was a Muslim, it would be like this, but if it was just one random guy committing a non-act of terror where nobody died, they're not going to run it because, I don't know, they are evil. I don't know. What is it, Gank?
Unless it's a right-wing terrorist, as is, by the way, the majority of terrorist acts in the United States.
In other words, what he just said, he just gerrymandered it. In the United States, a country with 0% Muslim, you hear me? 0.9, something like that, Muslim. And that's even a misnomer. Because of the Muslims in America, most of those are assimilated. Most of those are like, they don't give a fuck about religion. But when you open it up, when you actually have believers in the faith, they're killing everybody. Hide your kids, hide your wives. Oh, but in America, right-wingers commit more? Oh, really? That's like, so in other words, what he said was, even though per capita, it's crazy. Like Muslims are killing 25% or some shit like that, and they're 0% of the country. What he's saying is the category of other does more than the Muslims. Overall, not per capita. So even though Muslim terror as a singular problem is by far and away the largest group, the group that commits the lion's share of the acts, he's happy. This pompous bitch is happy to say, well, if you combine everybody else, every individual. So you know that mass shooter who just went to a movie theater and shot it? I bet he's right-winger. Let's call him a right-winger. Fuck it. Put him in the group other. That's what he's doing. And then he has the nerve to talk about, why isn't the government talking about that group, that terrorist group? Which one? Others? The non-Muslim group. The right-wingers, the others.
So now, final piece of irony here. Now, Trainee, some people think we're outraged because.
Oh, now we get to why the dude with the half swastika on his face decided to randomly shoot some people. Finally, thanks, Mr. Newsman, for giving us the news.
A Nigerian immigrant had assaulted an Italian woman recently. A 29-year-old identified as Jennifer in a shooting spree.
What the fuck? Did he just butcher this story?
And so they then asked about the people who were shot by Trainee, and we go to that portion of the story here. A Nigerian man has been, and they explain, I'm sorry, not Jennifer. Jennifer was shot by Trainee. This is the earlier shooting by the immigrant.
He completely fucking butchered the story. Okay, disregard everything that fat fuck just said. Yeah, there was a 29-year-old woman named Jennifer who was shot. Okay, great. And I think actually this dude apologized for that. He didn't want to shoot the woman. He wasn't aiming for her. The reason that the guy was pissed at the Nigerians was because a Nigerian man had been, yeah, here it is, has been arrested in the death of Pamela Mastropietro, 18 years old. Her remains were found in 2 suitcases days after she walked away from a drug rehab community. So, we've got an 18-year-old white Italian girl who was murdered and dismembered and put in 2 suitcases. A Nigerian man has been arrested for this. This dude, who is not in the right for going out and shooting people, was perturbed by that. How is that a political act of terror? How? So, in other words, the story of Nazi drive-by shooter guns down African migrants is a little bit deceiving, don't you think? Should the story not be hot 18-year-old white Italian girl gets murdered and dismembered by black man? Should that not be? Oh, sorry, African man, Nigerian. Let's not throw all Italian blacks under the bus. Very specifically, this Nigerian man. Here's a picture of the woman in question. She was 18. Apparently she had a drug problem. She got in with some of the wrong people, namely this dude. Let me read you a little story. Police found the body of 18-year-old Pamela Mastropietro in 2 suitcases on January 31st. Lovely. Can you imagine that being your day job? Though the cause of her death has not yet been established by investigators. Right. So the man's a suspect. It is inhumane what they did to my daughter. You think? An absurd violence. Her mother was quoted by the ANSA news agency. Pamela's death could have been avoided. 2 men are currently under investigation in connection with Mastro Pietro's death. One of them is currently in detention for concealing and showing contempt for a body. Oh, great. What is that about? But not for homicide, due to insufficient evidence. He remains under investigation for this crime, but denies all charges, didn't do nothing, and has told investigators the woman died of a drug overdose and he ran away. Well, somebody chopped her up. Yeah, let's do a DNA scan on that, thanks. The other man is suspected of selling drugs to the woman. It is not clear how Mastro Pietro died. Mastro Pietro died, and investigators have not ruled out a drug overdose as the cause. Okay. The woman's family have denounced a drive-by shooting in which 6 foreign citizens were injured, which the suspect said was prompted by the news a Nigerian man had been arrested over Mastro Pietro's murder. Now, the other thing that I found funny about this story were the names involved with the 2 Nigerians in question. The first one is called Desmond Lucky. He's the one suspected of giving the woman who had been in a drug rehab center near Macerata and had not been using for 4 months a fatal dose. Lucky, so he's not that lucky, he's been arrested for murder. Lucky is accused of complicity with another Nigerian drug pusher named Innocent Ozigali. The guy's name is Innocent. I think his parents had a little foresight. They're like, look, this guy's probably at some point in his life, let's be real, he's going to be up on charges. All right, he's going to be looking at a judge, and the judge's going to say, oh, the guy's name is Innocent. Surely that's not a coinky. But let's get back to Genk, because Genk is not concerned that these Nigerians butchered, likely overdosed, and dismembered a 18-year-old white girl. That's of no concern to him. His concern is the poor Africans, the downtrodden Africans who were shot at.
A Nigerian man has been arrested in the death of Pamela Mastro Pietro, 18 years old. Her remains were found in 2 suitcases days after she walked away from a drug rehab community. So a horrible crime. Assaulted, murdered, chopped up, put into suitcases. And so when an immigrant does a horrible crime, everyone from that community is held responsible by some, particularly in the right wing.
The old right wingers.
When a right winger does a crime, or a white supremacist does a crime, or an Italian does a crime, the entire right wing community is not held responsible. All white supremacists are not held responsible, and obviously all Italians are not held responsible. Now, let me add, nor should they. Of course they shouldn't. That's preposterous.
Yes, Jank, it is preposterous. It's so preposterous that your tail end to this bullshit rant you're on is also preposterous. Where you say, when a Muslim does something, not all Muslims, it's not all. Fucking hell.
But when it comes to one group in particular, our media and our right wing lose their minds. The one exception is, of course you can't hold all Italians accountable, but yes, Muslims, it's a particularly dark religion. It's the one that creates all these problems. Hey, we got to figure out what the hell is going on.
God, you're such a spastic whale. Okay, yeah, it is a particularly dark religion. It's the worst religion ever of all time. It's particularly violent, and they cause major problems everywhere they go. Do you want to take a quick gander at the Wikipedia stats? Terror? You know I like to do this. This is January of 2018. You guys familiar with that year? 2018. And let me go as fast as humanly possible here, but just understand what we're dealing with. A bombing in Pakistan, Al-Qaeda. Islamic freedom fighters, another bombing in the Philippines. Afghanistan, that's Muslims. Taliban. Nigeria, oh, speak of the devil. Boko Haram, 3 dead. Those are Muslims. Islamic State in Egypt, 2 dead. 12 injured in Pakistan, that's the Taliban, those are all Muslims. CPI in India, that's actually not Muslims, those are Maoists, insurgency, whatever, 1 dead. Islamic State, Afghanistan, Kenya, Al-Shabaab, 5 dead. Iraq, 3 dead. Islamic State, this is the 3rd of January. 14 dead in Nigeria, that's Boko Haram. Islamic State bombed some people in Iraq, 3 injured. 1 dead, Islamic State, Iraq, Afghanistan, Taliban, Muslims. Taliban in Afghanistan, Muslims. Islamic State in Afghanistan, let's not forget about them. They're Muslims, 20 dead, suicide bombing. Fucking crazy, right? But how about those Italians? Huh? How about those Italians? Why aren't they showing up on this? Huh. Somalia, Al-Shabaab. Yep, that's a group, an actual group, not like right-wingers. No, Al-Shabaab is a fucking group. 1 dead on the 5th. Oh, they came back. A shooting. They did a bombing. A shooting. 2 dead. Al-Shabaab, Somalia. Yep, again, on the more shooting from Somalia. That's Al-Shabaab. There was an ambush in Myanmar. And that's not Muslim. That's just a Rohingyan. Oh, wait a minute. Rohingyan insurgents. It was. It was Muslims. Holy shit, I was about to not call that Muslim. There was a shooting in India, CPI, whatever. CSI. Isn't that a show? Okay. Jaish-e-Mohammed. That's a terrorist Muslim group, and that's in India. That's 4 dead. Are you noticing a trend here? We're going all around the map, all over the globe. Senegal, shootings and beheadings. Now, that is probably just crazy Senegalese shit. I don't even think that's Muslim. The movement of democratic forces in Casamance. Huh? Yeah, those are Casamance nationalists. What the? Okay, a bombing in Iraq, Islamic State, 1 dead. Bombing in Iraq, Islamic State, again, that wasn't a typo. Then we have car bombings in Syria, 34 dead. Do you think that was a Muslim? Do you think? Afghanistan, 3 dead, Islamic State. The Taliban, 9 dead, Afghanistan. Boko Haram, 1 dead, Cameroon. Al-Shabaab, injuring 2 in Somalia. Nigeria, that's Boko Haram, that's 20 dead. That's Muslims. Al-Shabaab, 3 injured in Somalia. Muslims. Pakistan, 7 dead in Pakistan from the Taliban. Hamas is on the board with 1 dead in a shooting in the West Bank. They killed a rabbi. Bonus points for them. The Islamic Freedom Fighters in the Philippines, 1 dead, 3 injured. Iraq, 1 injured. Islamic State. Here's Thailand. That could be a local thing. 6 injured. Here's Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. 3 dead. Yemen. Cameroon, 3 dead. That's Boko Haram in Cameroon. Taliban, 5 dead. I mean, okay, look. Just acknowledge, and this goes on and on. There's one in here. Look at this. 38 dead. Islamic State. 105 injured in Iraq. It's fucking crazy. Cenk doesn't cover any of these. Not a single one. Do you understand? Not a single one. But he covers terrorism in Italy when it's not even terror and nobody died. I mean, it's fucking mental. Look, Kabul. Kaboom in Kabul. 103 suicide car bombing. 103 dead on the 27th of January. 235 injured. The Taliban. Muslims. Did Cenk cover it? No. No, he did not. Are you surprised? You shouldn't be. Well, don't worry about it. The same day in Mali, 14 dead. From who? Al-Qaeda, of course. Muslims. Anybody noticing a trend? Do you realize that this is not a list of Muslim terror? This is a list of all terror. I rest my case. I think I've proven my point.
And we got to do a Muslim/travel ban. So when it comes to that, there is demagoguery. When it comes to these, oh well, I mean, look, there was the immigrant who was killed, or the immigrant who did the killing, etc. Well, let's now go to the irony that I was mentioning earlier. A Nigerian community leader in Makarata, Sami Konon, said he heard the shots as he was going to meet with cultural mediators about organizing a sit-in to support Mastro Pietro's family. That's the poor woman who was killed. And unfortunately, salt in the wounds here, they called off the event after the shootings for fear of further racist attacks. So you hear sometimes from the right wing, why won't the fill in the blank, Muslims, Mexicans, immigrants, call out their own? Here were the Nigerians going to support the Italian victim in this case, and they were shot while going to support the victim.
Yeah, Cenk, we're all against the shooting. Look, don't look at us like that. Like, oh, look, are you in favor of shooting random people? Right, Cenk, let's focus on the fact that a Nigerian potentially killed a woman and dismembered her body. And in retaliation for that, this guy went berserk and shot some people. And he's been arrested, and ta-da, it's over. The rest of this is just you doing a song and dance. And by the way, I hope that everybody out there, you never give a guy like Cenk a pass. He should have his face shoved in his human feces for having the nerve to do a video talking about terrorism at all. You're gonna fucking talk to me about terrorism in Italy, and not mention the countless acts of Muslim terror that go on every single day? Not kidding, literally every day. Oh, and by the way, the terrorism, which wasn't terrorism in Italy, was preceded by a dismemberment and murder of a white 18-year-old. You kind of buried the lead, don't you think?
Why won't other Italians call out Luca Traini?
Because being Italian doesn't in any way connect you to this man and what he did. It's not a religion, nationalities are not religions, and there is absolutely no need for them to do so. Whereas if you're a Muslim, and we know that there are countless millions upon millions, tens and hundreds of millions of Muslims who believe in acts of violence in defense of their faith, in the offense of their faith. We know the numbers from the Pew polls, those who support suicide bombing, those who support jihad in all of its forms. And therefore, it is more relevant that the Muslim community as a whole denounce every single act of terror in one clear voice. They never do that because they're not against it in one clear voice. Clearly, that is the problem. The religion is grotesque. It's the worst ever in the history of time. The fact that you are associated with it and used to be one of them and have family members who currently are, that's your problem, not ours, fat man.
By the way, they do. Of course they do. The government has apprehended them, etc. Why would other right-wingers call out Luca Traini? They actually won't. White supremacists? Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, because they're not part of the same group because there is no group. Thanks for proving your own point wrong.
So, unlike the other side, we do not believe that everyone in that category is responsible for Luca Traini's crimes. Luca Traini is responsible for those crimes. It would be nice if both sides use the same standards.
Okay, yeah, that individual person is responsible for their individual crime. Sure, I can go with that. Yeah, nobody's blaming entire groups for anything. Here's a question. Do you want to count up the individuals? Oh no, you want to talk about an Italian, show us his picture, talk about white supremacy, talk about fuck all the Italians. Oh no, don't fuck them, but don't go after the Italians, don't go after the Muslims. Yeah, it's all even, right. Brilliant, Gank, brilliant point. It's been played out so many goddamn times. It's like the guy is playing chess against me and he's coming with the same opening. The same first 25 moves, literally the same. He doesn't have any other strategies. It's his only method. Oh, forgive him, Father, he knows not what he does. Except when it comes to eating, he does know what he does with that. I fuck Yank, fuck his muffin tops, fuck the kinky little pubic hair residing on his head, and fuck his pompous, bloated, sweaty, contorted, disgusting face. I hate the man, I hope you hate him as well, and I wish you a lovely and pleasant evening. Goodbye.
I heard it preached what I should and I should not do, and the choir sang, oh, 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 silence, you can't steal my voice, you can't keep me quiet, I will bring the noise. Try to beat me down, tell me to shut my mouth, but there's a time to speak, and the time is now. You can't buy my silence.
You're fucking white male!
Gonna find you.
Facebook.
And then yeah.
Sperm atheism is unstoppable.